In this video I'd like to briefly go over multiplying and dividing decimal numbers. So first of all we'll have a look at multiplying decimals by whole numbers. So for example, let's have a look at 0.4 times 3. So that's like, if I've got 3 lots of 40p, how much money do I have? And you probably know that's £1.20. So what I would do first, we ignore the decimal point. So I would do 4 times 3, which is 12. And then we need to put the decimal point back in. So I look at how many decimal places in the question there are. So I can say number of decimal places in question. That must be the same as the number of decimal places there are in the answer. So in the question I can see that there's exactly one number after a decimal point. So in the answer, there must be one number after the decimal point. So my decimal point currently in 12 is just after the unit, 12.0. But because there's one number after the decimal in the question, I would need to move that decimal point back once to leave me with an answer of 1.2. So let's try one of our own. Let's try another one first. If I have 0.03 times, I don't know, let's say 4.6 or let's try 4.6. So first of all we would ignore the decimal point, so that means I would do 3 times 46. Now that is going to be 120 and 18, 138. Then we look at the decimal. So I have 138. Now in the question I have 1, 2, 3. Don't forget the second number. 3 numbers after decimal points. So in the answer I'm going to want to have 1, 2, 3 numbers after decimal points, leaving me with an answer of 0. My decimal has moved to here. 0.138. Now obviously what we're really doing is multiplying by powers of 10 and then dividing by powers of 10 again in the answer, but this is the easiest way to probably do it. If you want to understand it more deeply, do let me know, and I can explain it in terms of multiplying by powers of 10, but this is how I tend to teach it. So let me just, because this is a bit simpler. So let's have a look at the answer there, just to check, 4.6, and we get, obviously, 0.138. Right, so part 2, dividing decimals by whole numbers. Let's think about an example. Let's imagine you have 50p and you want to share that 50p out to 2 people. I don't know if you want to buy some Freddos or something. So that would be 0.5 divided by 2. Now you know straight off the bat that's 0.25. But it's always good to look at these easy examples and see how we can calculate them, because often that illuminates how to do harder questions. So I'm dividing 0.5 out, so I'm going to put that into the bus stop, and the 2 goes on the outside. Now 2 into 0 goes 0. We have a decimal point, so I've put my decimal in. 2 into 0 goes 0, with remainder, not remainder 2 even. So 2 into 0 goes 0, with remainder both 0, essentially. And then 2 into 5 goes twice, with remainder, not remainder 3. So 2 into 5 goes twice with remainder 1. And then we obviously have the 0, so 2 into 10 goes 5. So that will give us 0.25. Let's try another one. Let's say we have 4.83 divided by 3. Same sort of thing. We'll put 4.83 into our bus stop. 3 on the outside. 3 into 4 goes once. Don't forget the decimal. 3 into 4 goes once with the remainder 1. 3 into 18 goes 6. 3 into 3 goes 1. So my answer there would be 1.61. It's like if you've got £4.83 and you want to share that out to 3 people, each of them would have to get £1.61 for it to be fair. Now lastly, we want to consider dividing by decimals. I don't know why that's gone there. We'll go back. There we go. Well, dividing by decimals is a strange concept. But the way to consider it is how many, but this is way to consider it. How many 0.5s are in 1? Because when we divide by something, we are asking how many lots of it. So if I divide, say, 5 by something, I'm asking how many somethings are in 5. So if I say how many 0.5s are in 1, I'm really doing this calculation, 1 divided by 0.5. Now, obviously, if I have one whole pizza, now 0.5, I think you know that's a half. If I have one whole, well, like an onion, but one whole pizza, I can see there are exactly two halves in it. So there are two 0.5s in 1, but that just means that 1 divided by 0.5 has got to be 2, which is a very unnatural thing to write. We always seem to think that should be smaller than 1, but it can't be. It can't be. So let's now look at a method for doing this, because we might have a harder question. Because essentially, I don't have a method for dividing by decimals. I need to make my answer I need to make my decimal number a whole number. So my method is I like to write the question as a fraction. This is what I like to do. So I'm going to write 1 divided by 0.5 as 1 over 0.5. We are allowed to do that. What I'd like to do then is multiply top and bottom by the smallest power of 10 necessary to make the bottom or the denominator into a whole number. To make denominator whole. Let's do that here. So I'm going to multiply the denominator by 10, and if I do that, to keep everything balanced, I've got to times the top by 10. Now, that's going to be 1 times 10 is 10, over 0.5 times 10 is 5. But 10 over 5 is simply 10 divided by 5, which is just going to be 2, which matches the answer we had before. So that method works fine. So let's look at a harder example. Just bear with me one moment while I try and get my screen to work. So, I'll move all of that. No, I can't. So I'm going to have to do that here, but that's not the end of the world. So let's try some questions. Okay, so if you want, you can pause them and have a go, but let's try these. So for the first one, to make 0.5 into a whole number, I've got to times by 10, so I times the top by 10. That gives me 45 over 5, which is 9. Second one, we have to times the bottom by 100, so I times the top by 100 to balance, or to make an equivalent fraction, we could say. So on the top, I have 630. On the bottom, I simply have 3. 630 over 3, you can use a bus stop if you want. That's going to go 210. 8.01 over 0.009. To make the bottom into a whole number, I need to times by 1,000, so I times the top by 1,000. So that gives me 8,001 over, 9, and then we can work that out with a bus stop. 9 into 8 goes 0, made it 8. 9 into 80 is going to go 8, with the remainder 8. 9 into 80 goes 8, 8 with remainder 8. 9 into 81 goes 9. So my answer there would be 889. So hopefully that clarifies how to multiply and divide with decimals and by decimals.